In our next lecture on green chemistry, we shall mostly focus on uh, the role of catalysts in achieving the goals of green chemistry, as well as some well-known examples of green chemistry, uh, which represent the successful uh, campaign uh, in this very important area of chemistry in mitigating the problems associated with use of chemicals and chemical processes. So we have already reached up to this stage. Uh, Now you know what are atom economic uh, and atom uneconomic reactions. On the basis of your understanding of the concept of atom economy, which is very important concept uh, based on the principle of reaction mass balance. Now a rearrangement reaction, for example, Claisen rearrangement of aromatic allyl ethers, uh, is can be considered as atom economic reaction. Similarly, Fry's rearrangement, though atom economic, since it is a rearrangement reaction, if it is using aluminum trichloride in stoichiometric amounts, then uh, of course it is producing unwanted molecules, unwanted products, and it cannot be considered as though it is a rearrangement reaction, but it cannot be considered as an ideal reaction as far as green chemistry is concerned. So atom economy, of course, is not very favorable. So photo-induced free radical route is preferable over nucleophilic attack route. Similarly, Beckmann rearrangement from, uses, we can synthesize uh, mm, caprolactam from cyclohexanone oxime, a key intermediate. So caprolactam is a key intermediate for nylon 6. So in this reaction, uh, zeolite catalysts uh, are better alternatives. Addition reactions such as Michael addition, uh, if they use heterogeneous base catalyzed addition of, it is a heterogeneous base catalyzed addition of beta keto esters to enones, and of course with the use of suitable catalyst, these addition reactions become more efficient. uh, Fundamentally they are atom economic, uh, but still better if we use catalyst in this bulk producing addition reaction. So this is here example is given, is of S naproxen, which is a drug molecule. Now coming to atom uneconomic reactions, substitutions reactions, uh, obviously would be atom uneconomic reactions. For example, there are two routes to synthesis of phenol. Uh, One is the benzene sulfonation route, which uses oleum or concentrated H2SO4 whereas there is another cumene root which produces uh, phenol and uses a more efficient catalyst, zeolite catalyst, in production of phenol. So and yes, and the side reaction also produces useful uh, ketone, a useful molecule. If our byproduct is also useful substance, then the reaction cannot be considered as wasteful. Uh, it is, in fact, atom economic reaction, very efficient atom economic reaction. Cumene root to phenol. E2 elimination of hydrogen bromide from 2-bromopropane. Elimination reaction, it is. Atom economy, you can see, is 17.9% only. Of course, elimination. This is an example of a well-known elimination reaction, and Wittig reaction also, which is very efficient route for commercial production of alkenes, produces a lots of unwanted products. So Wittig reaction, elimination reaction of HBr from 2-bromopropane cannot be considered as atom economic. They are atom uneconomic reactions. So catalysis and green chemistry, now coming to the catalyst, further focusing on this area. I have told you after the principle of atom economy and E factor. Another area which needs our attention is the principle of catalysis embedded in the overall 12 principles of green chemistry. So catalysts by definition are hetero or homogeneous. Within and across these two categories, there are other classifications. For example, asymmetric catalysts. They offer one of the most efficient low waste methods for producing enantiomerically pure compounds. Biocatalysts play a vital role in most life processes, you know. In the laboratory, biocatalysts are usually natural enzymes or enzymes produced in situ from whole cells. Phase transfer catalysts act by transferring the reactants from one phase into another, thus overcoming mass transport limitations. Photocatalysts, uh, they harness energy from the sun to carry out chemical transformations. Harmful waste and water cleanup treatment can be done. And metal nanoparticles as catalysts. Now, the most recently, the developments in the nanochemistry has provided us with very useful catalyst very good catalyst in the form of metals in the nanoparticle size. So they are called nanoparticle catalysts. Now, well-known heterogeneous catalyst is production of cyclohexanol from benzene. Cyclohexene, then high silicon zeolite, silica. It is ZSM is actually a patent name of zeolite silica. ZSM5 catalyst is used. In presence of water, you can synthesize efficiently cyclohexanol. You will see its use. It is very important intermediate used in important reactions. Probably we will see this reaction use of cyclohexanol. in other in production of other useful molecules. Similarly, nicotinic acid is also a very synthetically important intermediate compound. It can be produced using, concentrated HNO3 and H2SO4. At the same molecule can be produced by efficient catalytic route. So catalytic route to nicotinic acid is asymmetric catalysts. They help in isolation, as I mentioned, in enantiomerically pure compounds when we need, especially drugs. One well-known case is of, about 40 years old, when this 40, 50 years old. In early 60s, this drug was introduced, thalidomide, for treatment of certain diseases. It was found it caused serious side effects in the patients, and it was found that drug, the only isomer of the thalidomide is a drug. Other isomer is a was causing problems, was toxic. So when the drug was withdrawn from the market, further research was done, and it was found that only one particular isomer, it may be S or R, or a cis or trans, or molecules can exist in various geometrical orientation in a space. So to get a definite particular isomer, is usually achieved with the use of, during synthesis, we use asymmetries, as shown. One is shown here as a chiral phosphine is DIPAMP. DIPAMP is a chiral phosphine, which is used to get S-enantiomer drug for Parkinson's, L-DOPA. Drug name is L-DOPA, which is whose S-enantiomer is a drug for Parkinson's disease, and this is the process used by well-known agricultural biotechnology company, Monsanto. Similarly, now coming to commercial synthesis of L-menthol is also very important drug intermediate. It can be synthesized using asymmetric catalyst BINAP ruthenium rhodium. So this is a complex, phosphine, ruthenium phosphine complex is used as a asymmetric catalyst in the synthesis of L-menthol from diethylgeranyl amine. Now coming to synthesis of adipic acid, very obvious, very good example of green chemistry is synthesis of adipic acid. Adipic acid is again a very key intermediate in synthesis of various polymers and other useful compounds. So in classical traditional route, it used to be synthesized by this reaction of benzene, from benzene, starting with benzene and using the nickel catalyst and aluminum oxide to get the cyclohexene, cyclohexene then cyclohexanol, and then further, complicated processes using further copper as catalyst, ammonium vanadate, and HNO3. Finally, we get adipic acid along with the nitrous oxide N2O. It is, nitrous oxide, is one of the which affects our one of the potent air pollutant, nitrous oxide. So in this process, at the commercialist level, production of adipic acid involved. This process, from the green chemistry point of view, one can, just looking at the reactants used and the kind of intensive technologies employed, looks absolutely not very environmentally friendly process. So what happened? Actually, a large amount of adipic acid is consumed globally, about 2.2 million tons, mostly in the production of nylon 6,6. In the traditional synthesis process, large amount of nitrous oxide has been produced, which is a greenhouse gas and potential pollutant. So synthesis of adipic acid from the traditional route and greener routes, we can get from using catalyst, cyclohexene, and some greener catalysts in one-step process. In one-step process, we can get clean adipic acid, and this process is known as Noyori synthesis. This is known as Noyori synthesis. And something about Noyori synthesis, as so this was a Japanese company is probably behind its development of the green method, and so whoever develops the new technology, a patent is granted for some years, few decades. Until that time, nobody can produce that particular chemical using the process which gets patented. Another good example is production of polycarbonate PC. Its use electrical and electronic equipments, auto parts and accessories, medical devices, optical media, safety helmets, even missile components. So polycarbonate is a very useful polymer, and traditional method is known as Bayer's method, which used a reaction between bisphenol A and phosgene, a lethally poisonous gas. So traditional routes employed a starting material, phosgene. So an alternative route has been developed in recent years. In 2003, in green Asahi process, diphenyl carbonate and bisphenol A are taken in molten state without solvent, and this reaction, phosgene process and non-phosgene process, are shown here you can see in the non-Fassine reaction, uh, diphenyl carbonate is used along with bisphenol A, and even solvent is not required. In the molten state, both the reactants react to give our desired product, polycarbonate, whose structure you can see in the first reaction above in this slide. So, as what are the salient features of Asahi process as far as green chemistry is concerned? Uh, Asahi process for the polycarbonate production uses, is a firstly a phosgene-free process. Second, incorporation of carbon dioxide byproduct, carbon dioxide used as starting material. So any process which is using carbon dioxide uh, uh, in reaction as a reactant, obviously it would be a very good green reaction. So here you get the product which is already almost ready to use. That is, uh, you get the product in most purified form, and no diethylene glycol formation takes place, which is undesired molecule, and overall waste-free process it is. So now coming to Monsanto's herbicide or weedicide Roundup. Roundup is a commercial name, and this is actually uh, mm, uh, very widely employed herbicide. It was used, discovered by John France in 1970 while working for agricultural biotechnology company Monsanto. Uh, the chemical itself was, glyphosate. Uh, uh, was discovered some even 20 years earlier, so around 1950s. Uh, Glycophosate's weed killing activity only came to light when Monsanto's scientists were testing different compounds as potential water softening agents. Two molecules closely related to glyphosate were found to have some herbicidal activity against perennial weeds. So Franz, the person, synthesized derivatives of those two compounds and quickly discovered glyphosate to be a potent herbicide. So Monsanto patented glyphosate in 1970s and retained exclusive rights to its use until the patent expired in September 2000. The discovery of glyphosate had an incredible effect on the agricultural community, allowing farmers as well as anyone with a garden to easily and effectively control the growth of weeds. A huge number of glyphosate containing herbicides are now available. About 700, more than 750 around products are in the globally. Uh, it's used in all kinds of places: agriculture, forestry, lawns and gardens. Even products for controlling aquatic plants contain glyphosate. It is also used extensively in controversial programs to eradicate drug producing plants such as cocoa, opium poppies, and marijuana. If you want to destroy unwanted crop, you just sprinkle this Roundup or glyphosate in the field, and all kinds of crop, because it attacks the genetic code of the plant. So it is capable of altering the very basis of life. that is the DNA, I mean the amino acids, which are ultimately uh, responsible for life processes. So it is such a potent organophosphorus. It is organophosphorus compound, and it is a phosphonate. You can see its structure in between. NH group is there. A secondary imine group is there in this glyphosate, along with the phosphonate groups. So this is produced by a condensation reactions, kind of you condense these three molecules, glycine, formaldehyde, dimethyl phosphate, and condensation reaction is efficient reaction otherwise. But the problem is not with the product itself, not with the reaction of, uh, of production, but its widespread use and some side effects now they have come to fore as far as human health is concerned. So this Monsanto's herbicide Roundup, is a well-known example of green chemistry where what happens is can be the synthetic procedure uh, is actually very what to say, uses a kind of pathway, synthetic pathway, in which it inhibits an enzyme which is life-giving. So this enzyme is, known as EPSP synthase enzyme. It inhibits or it works, it affects that. So this enzyme is central to the penultimate step in the Shikimate pathway, which is essential for the biosynthesis of aromatic amino acids like tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine. A third of plant matter is estimated to consist of aromatic compounds derived from Shikimate, so it is easy to see why interfering with this vital biosynthetic pathway is a death sentence to plants. The Shikimate pathway is present in plants and bacteria, but absent in mammals, meaning humans can safely use glyphosate and eat plants that have been treated with it. Uh, but as found in recent studies in recent years, it is very toxic, and probably no place on earth has been spared where this glyphosate has not been used, or similar compounds, similar products have not been used. So glyphosate has been classified as a probable carcinogen by the World Health Organization, and the US Environmental Protection Agency says it is unlikely to cause cancer in humans, and the European Chemicals Agency also said that there was not enough evidence to label it as a carcinogen, but I mean. Now there are reports which indicate that it may be the cause of substantial cause of cancer in humans, and now its widespread use. This is a glaring example of a reaction, a product which which is still, we have still not found a substitute of this uh, VD site, which is which is with the least side effects. I mean, least hazardous uh, uh, deleterious effects. So it is, of course, still open. The question of use of weedicide Roundup is still open, and it puts a big question mark on it, on its use, as far as the chemical itself is concerned. It is hazardous chemical. Uh, some better substitute is required. And now, coming to yes, a well-known case of well-known drug, uh, ibuprofen. So, ibuprofen is a well-known painkiller, like aspirin, acetaminophen, Tylenol, for example, and ibuprofen. Used in huge quantities worldwide. And the traditional industrial synthesis of ibuprofen was developed and patented by the Boots Company of England in 1960s. This synthesis is a six-step process and results in large quantities of unwanted waste, chemical byproducts that must be disposed of or otherwise managed. Much of the waste that is generated is a result of many of the atoms of the reactants not being incorporated into the desired products, ibuprofen, but into unwanted byproducts, uh, that is poor atom economy and atom utilization. So the traditional route, that is Boots process, is not shown in this slide. You may find it, in uh, literature. If you search for this traditional synthesis of Boots synthesis of ibuprofen, then you will find it. What you are looking at in this slide is actually the green manufacturing route, which came into being after 1992 when the patent expired of ibuprofen. Boots companies, about 30 years, after 30 years, the patent expired and the search began to find alternative routes. And this route, this synthetic pathway, came into after 1992. It is known as green manufacturing route to ibuprofen. A company which developed it is BHC company, a BSC company. What is the BSC company has developed and implemented a new greener industrial synthesis of ibuprofen that is only 3 steps. You can see only, instead of 6 steps, and here are only 3 steps, a massive cut down in the use of mass and utilization with effective, more efficient catalyst, hydrogen fluoride. Waste is also acetic acid, which is acceptable, and then hydrogenation, and then palladium catalyst. All 3 processes are using efficient catalysts and to get the ibuprofen molecule. So in this process, you can see most of the atoms of the reactants and are incorporated into the desired product. This results in only small amounts of unwanted byproducts, very good atom economy, thus lessening the need for disposal and mediation of waste products. Something more, if you want to know, you can calculate its atom economy yourself, and you can write down in column 1 the reagents used uh, in the process, uh, their formula weight, uh, and see which part of the reactants are getting used and which parts are, I mean, leaving your target molecule and resulting in the waste. The only waste you can see is acetic acid, which uh, which cannot be considered as waste. Uh, it can be collected and sold as raw material somewhere. So, and still, use of biocatalysis is also uh, mm, a, I mean, another method of production of this drug molecule. Its S isomer is actually very useful, and biocatalytic catalytic route or catalytic route is answer to many problems, which I mean of chemicals and substances. With this, now I am